Hello, good evening and welcome to World Today. I'm Gautam Roy. This is your one-stop shop where we update you on all that is going on, that is the latest in the world in any corner. Absolutely. Today we're going to update you on how the world has been reacting to India's amazing feat of completing 100 crore, that's 1 billion vaccine doses. That is something that has not been done in the world by any other country except for one. We'll talk about that as well. We'll also talk about what's happening in Moscow as far as the talks on Afghanistan's future are concerned and much else. But first, our headlines. India achieves historic landmark in the fight against COVID-19 vaccination, administers 100 crore vaccine doses. Prime Minister Modi says we're witnessing the triumph of Indian science, enterprise and collective spirit of 130 crore Indians. WHO Director General and world leaders congratulate India and Prime Minister Modi. But the World Health Body also warns that the COVID pandemic will go on for a year longer than it should. WHO DG's advisor urges rich countries to prioritize vaccinations in lowest income countries, as less than 5% of Africa's population is vaccinated compared to 40% in most other continents. Ten regional powers back Taliban's call for a United Nations donor conference to rally aid for crisis-hit Afghanistan at the Moscow talks. Taliban also wants the US to defreeze Afghanistan's assets. Leaders urge the Taliban to form an inclusive government. North Korean state TV airs images of Tuesday's test launch of Pyongyang's submarine-launched ballistic missile. US and Europe condemn the move, but the Americans offer to meet the North Koreans without any preconditions, saying Washington has no hostile intent towards Pyongyang. Floods in Nepal and Kerala and unceasing volcanic eruptions in Spain. Climate change poses fresh challenges each passing day, underlining the urgency for climate action. But the Kremlin announces Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be attending the upcoming global climate conference in Glasgow without giving any reasons. Sports, and in the UEFA Champions League, Cristiano Ronaldo's header completes stunning comeback for Manchester United against Atlanta at Old Trafford. Defending champions Chelsea thrash Malmo. Meanwhile, Spanish club Barcelona halt worst ever Champions League start with a win over Dynamo Kiev. And it's time now to kick off the show with the big news. Well, this is a globally talked about event, landmark, because India has scripted history. We're witnessing the triumph of Indian science, enterprise and collective spirit of 130 crore Indians. That's what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said, congratulating India on crossing 100 crore vaccines. The PM has expressed gratitude to our doctors, nurses and all those who worked to achieve this feat. He also visited RML Hospital in Delhi as India crossed the historic landmark of administering 100 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses. Addressing a healthcare-related program in Jhajjar in Haryana, the Prime Minister asserted that to combat the biggest epidemic in 100 years, the country now has a strong protective shield of 100 crore vaccine doses.
अक्टूबर 2021 का ये दिन इतिहास में दर्ज हो गया है। भारत ने अब से कुछ दूर पहले ही 100 करोड़ वैक्सीन डोज का आंकड़ा पार कर लिया है। 100 साल में आई सबसे बड़ी महामारी का मुकाबला करने के लिए देश के पास अब 100 करोड़ वैक्सीन डोज का मजबूत सुरक्षा कवच है। ये उपलब्धि भारत की है, भारत के प्रत्येक नागरिक की है। मैं देश की वैक्सीन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनियां, वैक्सीन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में जुड़े कर्मयोगियां, वैक्सीन लगाने में जुटे हेल्थ सेक्टर के प्रोफेशनल्स, सभी का खुले मन से, हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
And the PM also met doctors, nurses and other healthcare workers at the RML hospital. He went around the hospital and interacted with the doctors and other staff. The PM also interacted with the people who had arrived at the hospital for their COVID vaccination doses. Now, World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has also congratulated India on hitting the 1 billion mark milestone. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "Congratulations, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the scientists, health workers and people of India on your efforts to protect the vulnerable populations from COVID-19 and achieve vaccine equity targets." Well, the war against COVID-19 opened a battlefront across the globe. Providing much needed assistance during the trying times, India initiated Vaccine Maitri, a diplomatic mission to supply vaccines to needy countries. More than 95 countries were the beneficiaries of Made in India vaccines. Vaccine diplomacy offered India the opportunity to not only strengthen its relations with the countries worldwide, but also to win the goodwill of people abroad. Here's a report.
The Boris Johnson government has thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Indian government for approving the export of paracetamol to ease shortage and supply gaps of the drug in the United Kingdom. Expressing gratitude, Acting British High Commissioner Jan Thompson said that the global support is significant in the fight against coronavirus. She added that the UK and India have a track record of fighting together against global challenges. Israel has thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for delivering chloroquine to them. The then Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, had said that all the citizens of Israel thank you. The entire world, including India, was struggling with COVID pandemic. While saving its population of more than 1 billion, India demonstrated its ancient philosophy of Sarvajan Hitai, Sarvajan Sukhai and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in the true sense, even in this hour of crisis. Whether it was about evacuating people of various nationalities from the place of origin of coronavirus, that is Wuhan, China, or sending chloroquine to the countries that needed it in their fight against COVID, or providing vaccine doses to other countries through Vaccine Maitri, while ensuring vaccination of own citizens, India has extended assistance to all the needy countries against this common enemy of mankind, with just one aim, that is to ensure that even the weakest countries can face this crisis faced by humanity with full force.
That they really want to praise the Vaccine Maitri initiative, except they are going about it in a very roundabout way. So it is done in good spirit. So I take it once again as a very generous compliment of the government's efforts from the other side. I also take it, sir, as a great affirmation of the Make in India program, which this government has pursued so strongly and with such great focus. I think all of us know the enormous efforts that the government has made in actually getting vaccine prices. We have by far the lowest vaccine prices in the world.
Maldives has expressed deep gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and the Indian government for evacuating its 7 citizens from Wuhan in China. Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohammed Solih had said that this demonstrates special friendship that exists between the two countries and its people. Oman has thanked India for the supply of COVID-19 vaccine to them. Fiji extended gratitude to India for providing 1 lakh doses of COVID vaccines. Fiji Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama said to my friend Prime Minister Modi and the Indian High Commission in Fiji, "Dhanyavad for your commitment to humanity." India not only provided COVID vaccines to countries like Britain, America, Saudi and Canada, but also helped poor nations who were neglected during the times of crisis. Through the Vaccine Maitri initiative, which started on 20th of January this year, India exported over 6 crore 63 lakh COVID vaccines to more than 95 nations till May 29th. Around 70% of the total grant of COVID vaccines by India went to neighbouring countries including Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka and Maldives. India has provided vaccines to some African countries too. India has pledged a contribution of $10 million towards the SARC COVID-19 emergency fund. Following the announcement, India has also delivered medical supplies, test kits and sanitizers to Sri Lanka, Maldives, Afghanistan, Nepal and Bangladesh. Along with equipments, rapid response team has also been sent to Nepal. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro tweeted a picture of Lord Hanuman carrying a mountain of coronavirus vaccine to Brazil while thanking Prime Minister Narendra Modi for helping his country with the vaccines. Famous cricketer Chris Gayle also thanked India for sending COVID-19 vaccines to Jamaica.
Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi, people of India, the government of India, I want to thank you all for your donation of vaccine to Jamaica. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Under the Vaccine Maitri initiative, Prime Minister Narendra Modi began a chapter of vaccine diplomacy under India's foreign policy during these testing times. Through this, not only struggling countries got benefited from the assistance, but India also got an excellent opportunity to promote its foreign policy and diplomatic relations with the world. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, time now to talk about India's feat, its endeavour in the global context. We have Dr. Sunil Kumar Raina with us. He's advisor, World Health Network and COVID Action Group, also professor and head community medicine, Government Medical College, Himachal Pradesh. Very good evening to you, Dr. Raina. First up, what is your first thought when you heard, just a few minutes past 11 in the morning today, that India has crossed that 100 crore landmark of COVID vaccine shots being administered?
First, thanks for having me on this important day. These numbers are overwhelming. If you look at these total numbers, 1 billion, 100 crore is huge numbers. But more than the numbers, what fascinates me or what makes me happy is the fact that we have been able to achieve an equity with vaccines. If you look at the way that we have delivered vaccines, we have delivered vaccines not just to India in different parts of India. We have also been able to deliver vaccines to other parts of the world which have required them the most. Now, vaccines follow a dynamics generally, and these dynamics are generally controlled by the supply chain management. And India, for one, has been able to control that. India is not cowed down by the fact that markets can dictate terms to us. So in that sense, it has been a very good event. It has been a fruitful event for us when we are celebrating this 100 crore vaccines. So I'm really overwhelmed to see this, and I think that it is more because of the fact that there's an intent in delivering vaccines to everybody, and the country as such has followed up to that intent. People are willing to take vaccines. We have the vaccines, and there is a willingness to take these vaccines to safeguard everybody. So that's probably the sum total of what this 100 crore vaccine delivery is about India.
Yes, and the world is hailing India's feat as well, and that's not just because of the fact that it's being done in the face of numerous challenges. We have a huge population, and 100 crore vaccine doses is not a mean task, administering it in such a large, diverse country as ours. But the world also looks at it with hope, because India can be a source really of the most needed vaccine doses, especially in continents like Africa, where there are warnings being put out that if people are not fully vaccinated, it can undo all that has been done against COVID-19.
Absolutely. If you look at the vaccine dynamics that is playing out across the world, there are two types of dynamics that are there. One is that there are poor nations. There are poor nations across the countries who don't have a vaccine of their own, but they have a huge population to cater to. And second part is that there are richer nations, that they have huge number of vaccines available with them, which they are not ready to part with. So if you look at, for example, US, or if you look at, for example, in the UK, the US has double the number, more than double the number of vaccines that they are required to vaccinate everybody in the country. But is US willing to part with their vaccines? Is US willing to give its vaccines to the poorer nations of the world? Is it going to give it to Africa? The chances seem little. If you look at India on the other hand,
they're committing vaccines
India
as
has
well.
a diversity in population, whether it's geographic diversity, whether it is economic diversity. whether it is the diversity with regard to how people react to vaccines. So the diversity is there. So if India becomes successful, the diversity of the model itself is successful. So we are going to tell the people that, look, we, despite not being a very resourceful country, we, despite not being a very rich country, have been able to effectively mount a vaccination program which can be similarly effectively mounted in your country if we are able to provide you with the vaccines. So the hope is there for everybody across the world, whether it's the low-income countries, whether it's the middle-income countries, because they know for one fact that if India, the vaccine pharmacy capital of the world, is able to generate vaccines, this is going to give vaccines to everybody across the world, as compared to the other parts of the world, which, in spite of the fact that they have enough of vaccines, may not be able to offload them to poorer nations. So that's where India is placed. India is in a place of leadership, and people are looking up to India as a leadership role, so that vaccines are received by everybody across the world. And without that, probably I would say it won't be a successful program if we are not able to reach everybody in the world with these vaccines.
Right. Now, India is being seen as a hub, as a pharma hub already, and now for vaccines against COVID-19 as well. A lot of the commitments that, say, the Quad has made, part of its vaccine initiative, the US has said that 1 billion doses will be donated to different parts of the world. It hinges a lot on the manufacturing capabilities of India, and the fact that it's backing the waiver of IPRs on other vaccines as well. Only Europe is a bit opposed, is another indicator of how crucial is India's role in all this, in this entire endeavor.
As I was looking at a document that came up from WHO a few weeks back, and it listed the potential donors to the global alliance which is going to circulate vaccines across the world, and the most important potential donor was India. And you'll be surprised, despite having commitments from Europe, from America, of contributing to this global alliance in terms of companies. For example, Pfizer had committed that it will provide some vaccines. Moderna had committed it will provide some vaccines. Some other countries across the world had committed that they will provide some vaccines. None of them till date had provided any vaccines to the global alliance. And most of the vaccines that had come to this global alliance had come in the days of India contributing to the alliance through its vaccine Maitri program. So the fact is that if India is able to generate more vaccines, if India is capable of generating more vaccines, there are higher chances that the vaccines will go to the global alliance. There are higher chances that the poor in the world will receive these vaccines. So that's where it's very important. India's success is very important. India's capability of manufacturing more and more vaccines based on its supply chain management, based on the fact that India is able to deliver vaccines very rapidly because of the fact that it has a very good manufacturing base as far as vaccines is concerned, is critical to the world receiving these vaccines. So that's probably where we are at this point in time. The world looks up to us. The global alliance looks up to us. That's why probably WHO is celebrating the fact that we have 100 crore vaccines. We have 1 billion vaccines today. So they are happy to see us being able to deliver vaccines to our own, so that whenever we have the surplus vaccines, or whenever we feel that there is a need to vaccinate everybody across the world, we'll be the first in the line to do so, as compared to others who may have more vaccines, more resources, but their commitment to be able to deliver vaccines to those who need it the most may not be there, where we have that commitment.
Certainly, and we have already announced that we will renew exporting vaccines very soon, and this is something that is not just part of the Quad initiative. India has other commitments as well to COVAX and other alliances, and Gavi, of course, part of that process, and all that will now start again benefiting from India's abilities.
Absolutely. As I said, if you look at the world at this point in time, roughly 20% of world's population which lives in poor countries received almost 4% of vaccines. So very poor receiving few vaccines as compared to rich receiving good number of vaccines. This is the story at this point in time. If you take India out of this context, India is the only country probably in low and middle income countries which has been able to match its population in delivery of vaccines. You take out China. I'm not very convinced with the numbers that are being thrown up by China from time to time. So if you take out China out of the dynamics, you look at India and you see that out of all low and middle income countries, only India has been able to deliver vaccines to matching its population. So if it is contributing around 17% of world's population, it is near 15 to 16% of vaccines that are being, the vaccines total that is being developed by India or delivered by India as compared to other countries. So the rich have the higher vaccines. But you also look at this way. Now US, Europe or England, which was a part of Europe earlier, they all have vaccines. They have the vaccines to deliver the third dose, they have the vaccines to deliver boosters, they have everything. But they have not been able to vaccinate 100% of its population by the 2 doses, required 2 doses or mandatory 2 doses. So the problem is not just availability, it's also the fact that we need to have an intent. And we need to have a population which responds to that intent.
Yes, there is hesitancy
so the country
as well.
and its polity has shown an intent to deliver vaccines, and its citizenry has responded very well to that intent. So you don't find very huge amount of vaccine hesitancy in India. So India is willing to get vaccinated. Indians are willing to get vaccinated because they have that faith in India's vaccine. They believe that India is able to develop and deliver a good quality of vaccine, so they are willing to take it. They believe the polity is wanting to deliver these vaccines to the farthest corners of the country, so everybody is responding to this vaccine. The same is not there in Europe and US. Despite the fact that they have vaccines, people's willingness to take up vaccines is not as high as that is in India. So the model as such, the intent there, the difficulties of delivering vaccines and still being able to deliver those vaccines, and people willing to take vaccines is something which is appreciable not just for Indians, but across the world. And people can learn from these models that we have a resource limited setting, but despite this resource limited setting, we have been able to establish a good connect with the people and deliver vaccines to the last mile. So that's exemplary in itself.
Yes, and India has also promised to share the digital platform which can be used to deliver vaccines to people, for people to register, and also for the entire setup, all the stakeholders involved to ensure that everything happens smoothly. So we have those digital platforms to share as well. And now that the goal that we have of getting everybody vaccinated fully with the 2 doses by the end of the year, and how the world is looking at India in terms of supply of vaccines as well, do you think both of these things can happen at the same time and India can really vaccinate the entire world? How would that be feasible?
I would say India needs to focus inward first. I would suggest that India needs to focus inward first, because it's very important that we vaccinate everybody in this country. We need to look outwards also because of the fact that it's our commitment to vaccinate everybody across the world, not just because of the fact that we have committed to global alliances, but also because of the fact that if anybody in this world has this pandemic or has this epidemic or has the disease, the chances of spreading that to other parts is not removed. So if anybody has the infection, it can reach to other places as well. So in that sense also, we should be able to vaccinate, or we should be vaccinating everybody in the world. But before that, we need to look at our own country. We need to vaccinate everybody in this country. And looking at the numbers that we are throwing up, if we look at the last month, September was the 1 month wherein we were able to deliver the highest number of vaccines in 1 month time. In fact, we exceeded our expectations as well. So going by the numbers that we have achieved in September, I hope that we will be able to achieve the targets by December, and we should be able to vaccinate everybody who's eligible to receive these vaccines by 2 doses. And once we have achieved that, and then we start taking care of our kids, for whom we are again launching up vaccines, and we are able to take care of them as well, then we can think of going beyond India. But at this point in time, I would like that India focuses on itself. Because it's always better to have a strong India and then go outside, because a stronger India is able to help. But if you have a weak India, it may not be able to help the world. A stronger India is the key to helping the world.
Certainly. And right now also with the number of people that are still left to be vaccinated fully, more than 100 plus crore doses of vaccines are required, and that is for the so far eligible beneficiaries. Remember, we could be adding children to the list as well. And then of course we've not gone down that road yet, but we may have to think about booster doses too. And all this, do you think will be factored in as well, and perhaps we can get manufacturing to be boosted even more so that the world's needs can also be met?
Look, if we look at kids now, if we include the kids, then we need another more than 100 doses, more than 100 crore doses at this point.
Yes.
But kids, all of kids are not being factored at this point in time. We are at this point in time factoring only those kids who have a comorbid condition, because our default setting in this pandemic with regard to vaccines has been to prevent death, prevent mortality. And vaccines have been excellent in that. We have been able to reduce mortality because of these vaccines. So at this point in time, we may be taking care of kids with the comorbidity, and then beyond that, once we have the vaccines in supply, enough of supply, we will be able to vaccinate others as well. So beyond that, there are other things that will also be needed when we are taking up boosters or third doses. I generally tend to avoid the word booster, I generally tend to say the third dose or the fourth dose.
Okay.
So India really needs to look at its data. As you said, we have a huge database now because of the fact that we have used digital platforms very well. So we need to look at our databases and assess whether we really do need the third dose or not. And if only we do need the third dose, who exactly needs to get the priority of the third dose? Do all of us need the third dose? Yes or no? Because if you look at the world scenario at this, even at this point in time, places which have more than vaccines that they require, more vaccines available than what they require, they also are not giving third dose to everybody.
Yes.
They also are focusing on certain number of patients, only a certain
The
number
more
of people
vulnerable
only,
ones.
in whom they think that the third dose is required. So probably over a time, we will also evolve as far as our strategy is concerned with regard to third dose, and also the fact that wherein exactly are we placed with regard to our kids, because your kids are again 40 crore of them, so you will again need 80 crore of doses if you are going to a 2-dose regime. If you are going for a 3-dose regime which is available with certain vaccines, you will need 120 crore. The numbers are again huge. So we will also need to see how we strategize vaccines for kids, strategize how the vaccines are received by the adults, and then think beyond that. So one step at a time may be the ideal step to go forward.
Right. Well, we have a lot of things to consider even with this landmark, but right now we are celebrating it because it is huge, and it's not just India that is celebrating it, the entire world is hailing it as well. So that is a great note to say thank you to you, Dr. Rena.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Now, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has also congratulated India for achieving the feat. In a tweet, the PM said, and I quote, "Congratulations to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the medical community and frontliners of India for achieving this mammoth task. The way forward and adjusting to the new normal while staying safe is highly dependent on a successful vaccination drive. Congratulations on reaching this milestone." And there have been more congratulatory messages as well from around the world. Prime Minister of Bhutan, Lote Tshering, has congratulated India on hitting the 1 billion mark of COVID-19 vaccination doses. In a tweet, the PM said, "In what is a huge accomplishment, not just for your country but the world, India hit 1 billion mark of COVID-19 vaccination doses. On behalf of the people of Bhutan, I congratulate India." And a lot of world leaders have been congratulating India. Included in that list is US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and he said, "We congratulate India for the extraordinary accomplishment of administering 1 billion doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. I applaud India's successes in fighting COVID-19 at home and for its efforts to help end the pandemic in the Indo-Pacific region and well beyond." Now moving on, the Taliban has had some success in rallying support from 10 regional powers as the Moscow talks for a United Nations donor conference to help crisis-ridden Afghanistan. Leaders part of the talks have called on the world to pitch in with aid to save the Afghans, while urging the Taliban to make their government more inclusive. But the Taliban insists that it has formed an inclusive government and it wants the US to unfreeze Afghanistan's assets.
Afghanistan's new Taliban rulers won the backing of 10 regional powers at talks in Moscow on Wednesday for the idea of a United Nations donor conference to help the country stave off economic collapse and humanitarian catastrophe. Addressing the third meeting of the Moscow format consultations on Afghanistan that was held in Moscow on Wednesday, Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, said that the Russian side has noticed positive efforts made by the Afghan interim government.
Отмечаем предпринимаемые
We know the efforts they are making to stabilize the military political situation and ensure the smooth operation of the public governance system. Sustainable peace in Afghanistan remains a pressing goal. We believe that forming an inclusive government which fully reflects the interest of all ethnic and political forces in the country is the key to achieve it. We call on the Taliban. This was also discussed with the delegation to do their utmost to prevent any more from using the territory of Afghanistan against the interest of third countries.
этнических, но и политических сил страны.
The minister also called on the international community to provide more economic and humanitarian aid to Afghanistan.
Что настало время для мобилизации ресурсов
We believe that it is time to mobilize the resources of the international community for efficient financial, economic and humanitarian aid, in part with a view of preventing a humanitarian crisis and stopping migrant flows. We are convinced that the United Nations should play a central coordinating role in pooling international efforts on the Afghan issue.
в целях недопущения гуманитарного кризиса.
The Deputy Prime Minister of Afghanistan, Abdul Salam Hanafi, who led the Taliban's delegation at talks in Moscow, said that Talibs need supporting peace in Afghanistan. Taliban leaders called on the US to unfreeze Afghanistan's assets during a news conference in Moscow, saying that the money is for the Afghan people. But the Taliban's resurgence has stirred international fears of a return to the hardline form of Islamist rule in the 1990s, when they hosted Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda movement and carried out egregious human rights violations, including public stonings and the marginalization of women at work and in schools. World Today Desk, DD India.
Leaders of several nations have expressed concern over North Korea's Tuesday test of a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Pyongyang State TV broadcast its images the very next day. While the US and Europe condemned DPRK's actions, the Americans have offered to meet the North Koreans without any preconditions.
First, they confirmed verbally and later released these videos. North Korea's state-run television on Wednesday aired still photographs showing a new ballistic missile being launched from a submarine. This was launched from the same submarine involved in a 2016 test of an older SLBM, according to North Korea's state news agency KCNA. The United States has offered to meet North Korea without preconditions and made clear that Washington has no hostile intent towards Pyongyang.
Our position remains clear. The DPRK must abide by the Security Council resolutions, and it is time to engage in sustained and substantive dialogue toward the goal of complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We have offered to meet the DPRK officials without any preconditions, and we have made clear that we hold no hostile intent toward the DPRK.
Ireland, Estonia and France have expressed concern about the test of a submarine-launched ballistic missile.
We firmly condemn this provocative action, which constitutes a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. We welcome today's discussion at the Security Council and the Council's continued attention to the DPRK's ongoing nuclear and missile activities and other WMD programs which represent a serious threat to regional and international peace and security. Monday's launch forms part of a pattern of provocations by the DPRK.
North Korea fired at least one ballistic missile off its east coast on Tuesday, officials in South Korea and Japan said. As Seoul opens a major arms fair, spy chiefs meet to discuss the nuclear standoff, and South Korea prepares for a space launch. The ballistic missile set off alarm bells across the region. The launch was reported by military officials in South Korea and Japan and comes just after South Korean envoys met with US officials to discuss the nuclear standoff on Monday. Pyongyang has ramped up its military activity dramatically in recent weeks, and Tuesday's launch marks its latest missile test. The missile was launched shortly after 10 a.m. local time from the sea in the vicinity of Sinpo, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said, where North Korea keeps submarines as well as equipment for test firing missiles. World Today Desk, DD India.
Environmental challenges keep mounting, be it floods in Nepal, extreme rainfall in Kerala or volcanic eruptions in Spain. The need for urgent climate action is paramount in the lead up to COP26 in Glasgow beginning at the end of this month. But the Kremlin has announced that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be attending the event without even giving any reasons. Here's a report.
Floods are wreaking havoc in Nepal. Triggered by 3 days of heavy rainfall, the floods have killed over 75 people in the country after rescuers recovered 34 more bodies. According to the Interior Ministry of Nepal, the floods and landslides have killed 24 people in Panchthar district of East Nepal bordering India, while 13 have been killed in neighbouring Ilam. 12 deaths were reported in Doti in West Nepal as well. The ministry said 22 people were injured and 26 others were missing. On top of that, authorities have warned of more rain in the next few days. Forecasting for the next 2 days, the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology said there are chances of heavy rainfall in some places and light to moderate snowfall in the eastern mountainous areas. Amid this, meteorologists have attributed activation of 2 weather systems at once for the change in weather pattern of the Himalayan nation. Nepal's Ministry of Home Affairs has mobilized Nepalese Army, Nepal Police and Armed Police Force for the relief and rescue in the needed areas. In India, the state of Kerala is bracing for more rainfall. The Indian Meteorological Department has sounded an orange alert in few districts and a yellow alert in several others. The IMD has said due to the influence of a cyclonic circulation formed to the south of Tamil Nadu coast, Kerala is expected to be under the sway of heavy rainfall till 24th of this month. As situation remains grim, relief camps have been set up across the state. Meanwhile, Cumbre Vieja volcano on Spain's La Palma island is spewing ash and lava into the air and threatening the biodiversity on the island. The volcanic eruption has entered its second month. Streams of lava flowed past houses on the Spanish island of La Palma on Thursday. Rivers of red-hot lava have engulfed almost 800 hectares of land, destroyed about 2,000 buildings and many banana plantations since the eruption began on September 19th. The eruption has disrupted lives of many and has forced over 6,000 people to flee their homes. The rising incidents of natural calamities have raised concerns among many global leaders who are ready to meet for COP26 at the end of this month. However, Russia's President Vladimir Putin will not attend the UN COP26 climate summit in Glasgow, the Kremlin said on Wednesday. No reason was given for the decision not to attend, but a Kremlin spokesperson said climate change was an important priority for Russia. COP26 takes place in Scotland's largest city from 31st of October to 12th of November. World Today Desk, TV India.
And it's time now to get you some more global updates.
Britain and New Zealand have reached agreement in principle on a free trade deal designed to reduce tariffs, improve services trade and take London one step closer to membership of a broader trans-Pacific trade agreement. The groundbreaking deal was agreed over a virtual call between British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern after 16 months of negotiation. Tariffs on more than 97% of product lines will be removed as soon as it takes effect, accounting for about 63% of New Zealand's current exports. In return, New Zealand will eliminate tariffs on all UK originating goods from day one of the agreement. British Prime Minister called it a great deal for United Kingdom, which will cement the long friendship with New Zealand and strengthen ties with the Indo-Pacific. Supporters and critics of Ecuadorian President Guillermo Lasso took to the streets of Quito on Wednesday to protest in favor of and against labor reforms proposed by the government. Followers of the conservative president gathered outside the presidential palace waving banners in a show of support for the economic and labor policies, as well as the decree of a state of emergency to confront drug-related violence. Hundreds of workers demanded to freeze fuel prices and end the government's relationship with the International Monetary Fund, whose agreement will involve disbursements of $1.5 billion this year.
Lasso, a conservative who took office in May, reached a technical agreement with the IMF to maintain the economic program agreed on last year, which implies continuing with the austerity measures attempted by his predecessor, Lenin Moreno. In India, the Police Commemoration Day is observed across the country on October 21st. Union Minister Nityanand Rai paid homage to the police martyrs at Police Memorial Ground in New Delhi. Every year, the country celebrates Police Commemoration Day to remember police personnel who sacrificed their lives while discharging their duties and honor their sacrifices. World Today Desk, TD India.
And we're talking sports now. Barcelona's teenage forward Ansu Fati has agreed to a new contract that runs until 2027, the La Liga club announced on Wednesday. The 18-year-old Spain international's new deal includes a buyout clause of €1 billion. Fati burst onto the scene for Barcelona at 16 when he became the second youngest player in La Liga history. He quickly established himself as one of the most exciting young talents in the world, becoming the youngest player to score in the Champions League and the youngest player to score for Spain. Fati, who inherited Barcelona's number 10 jersey from Lionel Messi when the Argentine left for Paris Saint-Germain, came through the youth system at the Catalan club and has had to fight his way back from 4 surgeries to repair an injury to his left knee suffered in November 2020. Fati played his first game in almost a year last month when he scored after only a few minutes on the pitch as a substitute in a 3-0 win over Levante. FIFA President Gianni Infantino has said on Wednesday he wanted to seek consensus over plans for a biennial World Cup and changes to the international match calendar after facing fierce criticism from European federations. FIFA's ruling council agreed to hold a global summit on the 20th of December to discuss the proposals for a World Cup to be held every 2 years rather than every 4 years. However, Infantino did not commit to holding a binding vote on the plans after UEFA President Alexander Seferin warned against it, saying there would be terrible consequences for football in general if he pushed ahead. FIFA will now wait for the results of a feasibility study and also an economic analysis of the financial impact of the extra World Cup, which are expected to be delivered before the summit. Seferin said UEFA would boycott an additional World Cup, and his opposition to the plan has been echoed by European clubs and leagues. Infantino noted the debate had been heated, but said that it was a sign of change within FIFA that such a wide-ranging consultation was being held.
You know, if this is the end point, then obviously there will be no consensus. But if this is the starting point, then we have to see how we can approach the different opinions in the different parties. And to do that, we need to do, as FIFA as well, our part of the job. We need to finalize our feasibility study. We need to look at the sporting merits, at the economic merits, and then we can have a reasoned discussion rather than an emotional discussion about World Cups every 2 years, other types of competitions, what kind of events we can create to make football better and so everyone can benefit. So I don't know what the ultimate result will be. We have been asked by the Congress to make a study on a feasibility study on World Cups every 2 years and some other matters. That's what we are doing, and at the same time we englobe and include the feedback of everyone and we try to come up with something good.
More football, and Manchester United registered a resounding victory against Atlanta at Old Trafford in a thrilling match played last night in the UEFA Champions League. However, in the first half, Manchester United were trailing Atlanta 2-0. The first goal of the match was scored by David Zapacosta in the 15th minute for Atlanta. Meanwhile, Merih Demiral scored a second goal for Atlanta in the 28th minute to make the lead 2-0. Team star player Cristiano Ronaldo ensured the team's victory by scoring the third goal in the 81st minute thanks to a superb header. With this goal, Ronaldo has won 37 goals in the Champions League. Manchester United have reached the top of Group F with this win. In another match, defending champions Chelsea beat Malmo 4-0. From the first half, Chelsea showed a great game and did not give any chance to Malmo's team. Andreas Christensen scored the first goal for Chelsea in the 9th minute, while midfielder Jorginho scored 2 goals for Chelsea. Jorginho scored both these goals as penalties. Chelsea's 4th goal was scored by Kai Havertz in the 48th minute. Malmo's team failed to score a single goal and Chelsea managed to win the match 4-0. Now the Spanish club is going through its worst phase since Lionel Messi left Barcelona. Barcelona finally got the first race in the ongoing Champions League. In the match played yesterday, Barcelona defeated Dynamo Kiev 1-0. Gerard Piqué scored the only goal for Barcelona. This is the first race of the Spanish club in the 3 matches played so far. Barcelona are 3rd in Group E with 3 points. And to know what else is happening in the world of sports, let's take a quick look at our sports wrap.
Tokyo Olympics bronze medalist wrestler Bajrang Punia has resumed training after recovering from a knee injury. However, he will not play in the national championships to be held in Gonda, Uttar Pradesh from 19th to 21st of November. Bajrang Punia, aged 27, had a ligament strain before the Olympics, but he was back again. He was also successful in winning the bronze medal in 65 kg freestyle event of the Olympics. Defending champions India will begin their title defence campaign against France on 24th of November on the first day of the FIH Junior Men's Hockey World Cup to be held at the Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar. India has been placed in a comparatively easy Group B along with Canada, France and Poland. Former Australian cricketer Michael Slater was arrested in Sydney for domestic violence. Slater, who has been detained by the police, is accused of domestic violence. The 51-year-old, who has also played for Australia in international cricket for a very long time, is also a part of the commentary panel. In the past, he has also done commentary for Indian Premier League and India-England series. Rohit Sharma, the vice-captain of the Indian team, is likely to be appointed as India's next limited overs captain. Virat Kohli will step down from the captaincy after the T20 World Cup, and after this Rohit Sharma can become the captain of not only T20 but the ODI format as well. Sports Desk, DD India.
And now let's get you updates of an offbeat nature in Beyond Headlines.
Colorful skulls inspired by the Mexican artist Frida Kahlo decorate the streets of Mexico City as the capital comes alive ahead of the Day of the Dead celebrations. The exhibition of 10 works entitled Frida's Skulls pays tribute to the iconic Mexican painter, and they are on display at Jardín del Art Park in Mexico City. The Day of the Dead is a pre-Hispanic tradition in which families remember their dead and celebrate the continuity of life. The annual event holds that the dead return once a year from the underworld. 2 barber brothers in India are turning heads with their creative yet realistic hair designs, which depict everything from the Taj Mahal to Michael Jackson on their customers' heads. 29-year-old Rajvinder and 31-year-old Gurvinder have become celebrities in their town of Mandi Dabhali with their eye-catching art. These brothers claim that they can depict anything from Hollywood and Bollywood celebrities to international sports stars on people's scalps. A towering statue of a woman's head with her index finger pressing on her lips now faces Lower Manhattan along the Hudson River, inviting the chaotic metropolis to stop and listen. Known as Water Soul, this 80-foot statue has been erected in front of the river, in front of a forest of high-rise buildings in Jersey City's rapidly developing Newport waterfront. The message of the statue is to keep silent, to listen to the profound noise of the water talking to human beings. The Frankfurt Book Fair has opened its doors to the public. The world's oldest book fair is back as an in-person event after going almost fully digital last year to curb the coronavirus spread. More than 1,500 exhibitors from more than 70 countries will be present, well below the 7,500 exhibitors from over 100 countries that came in 2019. Just 200 authors are traveling to Frankfurt. A robotic dog stole the limelight at the Millipol Defense and Security Trade Fair near Paris on Tuesday. The 22nd edition of Millipol Paris takes place from October 19 to October 22 and plays host to dozens of countries including Israel, the United States and Switzerland. According to the makers of the robot dog Ghost Robotics, The robotic dog costs under $1 million. The maker said that the technology has advanced in the past few years and has enabled the robot dog to keep its balance in difficult terrain. Drone footage gives a unique view of the Swiss city of Geneva, which lies at the southern tip of the Léman Lake. With its 129-year-old Jet d'Eau fountain, its 12th century cathedral, as well as the United Nations headquarters. The city is surrounded by mountains, including Mont Blanc, the highest one in the Alps and Western Europe, rising 4,807.81 meters above sea level. The 14th edition of the Sufi Music Festival has ended in Fez, with a great concert led by Marwan Haji and his band. A week's worth of discussions, roundtables, concerts and performances by Sufi brotherhoods are on offer in spectacular venues across Fez's medieval Medina. And this festival is one of the leading Sufi events in the world today. As Fez is the spiritual capital of Morocco, it's only fitting that the annual festival of Sufi culture should take place here each October. World Today Desk, DD India.
And now it's time to take a look at all the events that took place in history around the world on this very day.
On this day of the year 1945, women voted for the first time in France. In 1967, October 21st, the Egyptian Navy sank the Israeli destroyer Eilat off Sinai. In 1993, on this day, Burundi President Melchior Ndadaye died in an abortive military coup. On this day in the year 1994, United States and North Korea signed a landmark deal under which North Korea would freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. In 1998, on this day, the ex-communist Massimo D'Alema took over as Italy's Prime Minister, heading a Social Democrat-dominated government that included the first Marxist ministers in half a century. World Today Desk, DD India.
And that's all we have this evening as far as World Today goes, but the latest continues right here on DD India, so do keep watching.